And the harbour crowd is calling from the old port to the oval. We will follow one and all. We'll talk the wins and losses, every player, every spark. Raise your voice for Fremantle. You're listening to Wharf
Welcome back to Wharf Talk. I'm JB and this is your post-derby Bulldogs preview episode. We have got a lot to get through and Friday is coming fast. If your phone just did that yesterday, do not panic. That was not a bushfire. That was not a flood. That was the entire country finding out Murphy Reid has re-signed with Fremantle. News that big, they had to break the emergency broadcast for it. So let's give it the respect it deserves. Murphy Reid has agreed to terms on a contract extension through to the end of 2032. He was contracted until 2029, having already recommitted once. This new deal adds 3 more years and takes him through to the end of his 8th season, the point at which he first becomes a free agent. Pick 17 in the 2024 draft. 2025 rising star, 43 straight games since a debut where he kicked 4 goals in a single quarter, and now the Glendinning Allen Medal to go with it. Here is the context that makes this more than a happy news story. David Walls flagged the Tasmania angle directly. A new club entering the competition can target established players, and Reid would have been near the top of their list. Locking him away long term is Fremantle removing its most exciting young player from a market that was about to get a lot more competitive. For a club chasing its first flag, having the reigning rising star committed through the entire window is as big a statement as the 70-point win. And at 19 years old, he is the second youngest player ever to win a Derby medal. And that 70-point win is where we go next. Fremantle 112, West Coast 42. 70 points, the margin in front of 56,616 people. A record crowd for a Fremantle home and away game at Optus. Western Derby 63, and the Dockers are top of the ladder, 12 points clear with 4 games left, except the scoreline flatters how clean the night actually was. And that matters for Friday, so it is worth sitting with. Fremantle trailed at quarter time. West Coast moved the ball quickly off half-back in the first term and won the early territory battle. The Dockers were inaccurate. 5 goals, 10 behinds by half-time, which kept the Eagles in a game they had no right to still be in at the main break. 2 things turned it. The first was centre clearances. Fremantle won them 15-9 across the match, and the advantage was almost entirely a second-half story. It arrived at exactly the moment the game opened up through the middle. With Hayden Young out sick and Jaeger O'Meara still injured, Shai Bolton spent big minutes on ball, and he led the entire club with 8 clearances. Stoppage clearances finished level. The edge was all at the centre bounce, which is where Bolton did his damage. That is not a coincidence. The second thing was finishing inside 50, and here is the number that explains the 70-point margin. Both sides moved the ball at nearly identical efficiency across the ground. Fremantle at 77.8%, West Coast at 77.1%, but inside 50, Fremantle at 65.4%, West Coast at 37.1%. The Eagles could move the ball, they just could not finish with it. GMS found space behind the defence for 5 goals and 8 marks, and Fremantle had 11 individual goal kickers, so West Coast could never solve the problem by locking down one target. Second half, Fremantle 11 goals 6, West Coast 1 goal 4. The Eagles managed just 2 points in the final quarter, 2 behinds, no goals. Sitting above all of that though was Murphy Reid, and his night deserves its own beat. 26 disposals, 6 inside 50s, 8 score involvements, and his influence rose sharply after half time as the game opened up. He took 8 of a possible 9 medal votes without topping a single statistical category. The medal came from a third quarter passage where he set up 1 goal and kicked another. That is elite football. He was not alone, mind you. Matt Johnson led Fremantle with 29 disposals, 6 clearances and 6 free kicks won, and he spent time on Harley Reid. Sarong had 26 and 7 clearances, Brayshaw 25 and 7 tackles. The midfield advantage was shared, not carried, and Alex Pearce held Jake Waterman, who had kicked 5 goals against Brisbane the week before, to 5 disposals and 1 goal. For all that, there is a concern worth naming, because there always is. Fremantle trailed at quarter time. Again, West Coast led early and extended a pattern of slow starts, and Justin Longmuir keeps pointing at it. His words after the game were that the Dockers have still got a lot of improvement left in them. There were signs, he said, even in a 70-point win, that show there is another level here. He is publicly treating the run home as preparation, not a procession, which matters because the run home is genuinely hard, and it gets hard immediately because the Western Bulldogs are next at Optus Stadium, Friday the 31st of July, 6:10 in the evening, Perth time. The AFL called this game the most daunting road trip in the game, and they are not wrong. The Bulldogs sit 7th at 12 wins and 7 losses, 3 wins in a row, and they are fighting to avoid a wildcard final. Last week they beat Richmond by 57 points, and the shape of that win is the story. Richmond kicked 2 of the first 3 goals and trailed by only 2 at quarter time. Then the Bulldogs held them scoreless in the second term. Nothing, and kicked 4 goals, 5 themselves to lead by 31 at the main break. Inside 50s, 32-17. Clearances 21-12. Centre clearances 8-1. And here is the part that should worry Fremantle. That halftime lead was built with Marcus Bontempelli on just 11 disposals and 1 clearance. He finished with 29 disposals, 3 clearances and 2 goals. Enormous in the second half. A team that can dominate a half without its captain firing and then get a Bontempelli surge on top of that is a genuine threat. Bontempelli was not even the standout. That was Ed Richards. 32 disposals, 6 clearances, 2 goals, 11 inside 50s, 11 score involvements and 662 metres gained. Bailey Williams added 26 disposals and 7 clearances. Joel Fryer 23 and 5. This is a deep midfield. The injury list, though, still tells a story. Bailey Dale, shoulder, 3 to 5 weeks. Adam Treloar, calf, 4 to 6 weeks. Sam Darcy, knee, gone for the season. Connor Budrick, ankle, 3 to 5 weeks. So the Dogs travel west without a damaging, rebounding defender in Dale, without midfield depth in Treloar, and without their best tall in Darcy. The good news for them is that Tom Liberatore has been cleared. He was a test earlier in the week, and he is up. 23 disposals and 7 clearances against Richmond, and he is central to their contested game, which is exactly the phase Fremantle wants to own. Getting him back matters, but even with Liberatore, this is a Bulldog side missing 3 important players walking into the best team in the competition, which makes the history between these two sides worth a minute. Since 1995, 43 meetings, Fremantle 22 wins, Bulldogs 21, about as even as it gets. Fremantle has won 4 of the last 5, and the most instructive recent meeting is the round 8 game this year at Marvel Stadium. Fremantle won 114-102, but the Bulldogs kicked 6 first quarter goals and led early. Fremantle went slow to go fast, moved into a controlled kick mark game and won the second half. Bontempelli had 33 disposals and 2 goals that night on a heavily strapped knee he had retaped in the first quarter. Fremantle won without ever solving him. And that game is not an outlier. It is a pattern, and it is the thread that ties the whole history straight into Friday. 3 times the Bulldogs have jumped Fremantle early in this rivalry, the 2022 elimination final. Down by 41 points, Fremantle won. Round 20-4 last year, fast Bulldog start, Fremantle won. Round 8 this year, 6 first quarter goals to the Dogs. Fremantle won, 3 fast starts by the Bulldogs. 3 Fremantle victories, but the derby made it 4 slow starts in 5 games for the Dockers. And at some point, the comeback does not come. That tension is the real game within the game on Friday. Fremantle does have one thing in its corner, though. If Hayden Young returns, they get the player who was best on ground the last time these two teams met. He kicked 3 second-half goals that day, including a finish under pressure from a tight pocket. He missed the derby with illness. His status is confirmed Thursday, and that is the selection storyline with the most actual stakes this week. So when you add it all up, here is where Friday sits. Fremantle, top of the ladder, clear by 12 points with 4-quarter football still a work in progress. The Bulldogs travelling west without Dale, without Darcy, without Treloar, but with Liberatore back in to face a side that has beaten them 3 times running in exactly the comeback style they fear most. Longmuir is right that there is improvement still in this Dockers group. Friday is the game that starts proving it. More from me on Thursday with the full team announcement reaction and the predicted 22. Until then, go Dockers!
And the harbour crowd is calling from the old port to the oval. We will follow